right. I'm here today to explain to you, okay, how it is that we have got into this globalization that we live in today. Okay, so first off, where are we at today? Okay, so we live in a completely interconnected society. Okay, so for example, this morning I woke up, especially early to make this recording for you today, and I enjoyed a cup of coffee that was likely grown in Colombia. Okay, shipped to the United States, processed, put in a nice little Dunkin' Donuts bag, and shipped to my local grocery store where I could pick it up. Okay. I also, as I do when I get up in the morning, I got up and I played 2 games of chess with an individual from Iran. Okay, so I was able to do that this morning as I was sipping my coffee. And finally, if I really chose to do so, okay, I could ship this lesson to Japan. It's just as easy for me to give the class link that I've given to you for my Google Classroom as I could to someone from Japan or from Norway or from Australia or Indonesia or really anywhere in the world, okay? And so that's where we're at today, okay? So how do we get there? And it's really easy for us to think, okay, well, we're just talking about globalization now, all right? So like this is something that's happened recently. Wrong, okay? Because really in this class, we have been talking about globalization from the very beginning. Okay, and there's a lot of places I could choose to start this project, but I'm going to choose to start this project with the Silk Road. Okay, now like I said, there's a lot of different ways we can start this. I could have started this with human beings first coming out of the African continent and spreading around the globe. Okay, but I'm starting here because this is the first intercontinental trading system, okay, set up across the Eurasian continent. All right, and what it ultimately does is it moves goods from east to west. Okay, silks, spices, porcelains, and with that, it also moves technologies, okay? Technologies such as writing. Okay, we know that the printing press developed by Johann Gutenberg, a lot of those ideas were taken, okay, originally from the Chinese who invented the first printing press, okay? Gunpowder, okay, is another thing that's moving along that line. Ideas, okay, such as religions or philosophies move along that line with these goods along the Silk Road, okay, which is this cultural diffusion right here. Okay, so we're not going to see, okay, these small isolated pockets of culture are going to become less common, and instead we're going to have a number of different cultures that are borrowing various aspects of one another. So, for example, we see this Silk Road comes down into India. Okay, and the Buddhist religion was developed in India by Siddhartha Gautama. Okay, and through the Silk Road, it spreads up through China, okay, and becomes really the dominant religion in many of these Asian countries. Okay, China, Japan, the Koreas down here. Okay, so that's an example of that. Okay, and it also, and this is going to be huge as we go later, establishes the Arab countries as brokers of these Asiatic goods. Okay, so this is what really fuels the spread of the Islamic Empire, is that they are becoming the merchants, the middlemen for all of these highly sought after goods in Asia. Okay, going forward into the Crusades, what this does is that this breaks through and establishes Europe. It puts Europe firmly on that Silk Road. Okay, so if we're looking at this right here, the farthest west that this goes is getting into the Middle East. And it's not really until we get to the Crusades where we basically, I believe Mr. Bannock would correct me on this, Pope Innocent, if I'm not mistaken, decides that we need to go kill some non-Europeans, and so let's go kill the people in Jerusalem, and that's what they do. And by doing this kind of gets these European crusaders a taste for these Asiatic goods. Okay, so it puts them onto that Silk Road, right? And that is going to be hugely important, okay, because now that we have the Europeans that are firmly on this Silk Road, okay, the Mongols are going to kind of become that next big superpower in Asia. And like you, if you, I know that Mr. Bannock uses the document set where he uses that passport, okay? The Mongol Empire provided safe passage for anybody traveling on that road. If they had the protection of the Mongol Empire, nobody messed with those, okay? So that made it very easy, okay, for Europeans to get those goods. However, at this time, Europeans were starting to look at a way that they could cut out the middleman, okay? Because with any sort of good, any person that is going to be touching that product is going to be taking a cut of those profits. Okay, so the Europeans are going to start thinking, we really like these goods, we really like this process, okay? However, we want it cheaper. We want to cut out these traders in the middle, okay? Which is going to lead Europeans to look for a direct access to Asiatic goods, which is going to lead us right into the age of exploration. Okay, so the European powers are going to look for various ways of cutting them out. The Portuguese are famously going to go around the Horn of Africa to establish trading ports into India. Okay, but one guy, Christopher Columbus, decides to sail west, and when the Spaniards do sail west, they find large deposits of precious metals. Okay, so this is what leads off this basically a race to kind of establish colonies on the Western Hemisphere. Okay, so this is going to lead to the Columbian Exchange. So all these European powers that are coming over here, they're going to bring things with them like horses, smallpox, various plants, vegetation, chickens, so that they can establish life on this new continent. All right. The other aspect of this is they're also going to be bring slaves from Africa, okay, to grow these products, okay, and also to mine these precious metals. All right, and this is going to lead into something that is going to become very, very beneficial, okay, to the European continents, because all of this wealth, okay, because of the mercantilistic policies of the European countries, starts pouring into Europe, okay, which is then going to lead us to imperialism and then ultimately industrialization, okay. So because the Americas are leading all this huge amounts of capital, so just money is pouring into Europe, okay, this excess capital is what's going to allow these European nations to be the spearhead of the Industrial Revolution, okay, because they're going to be able to take that capital and invest it in new processes, okay, that are going to allow them to be able to make goods cheaper and faster, okay. Now that they have those goods that are done cheaper and faster, they're going to need to be able to find new markets in order to sell it, new raw materials in order to feed the industrial process, and new labor forces, okay, which is going to lead them to this imperialist mindset where they're going to start conquering these various parts of the world in order to feed this industrial system that they have created. All right, this in turn leads to new wealth, okay, which leads to new economic divides and classes, which in turn leads to consumerism. All right, okay, which and honestly gets us back to this very point at the beginning, okay, because really we in the 21st century are still feeding off of that imperialist industrial system, okay? The fact that those European nations, okay, they needed places to sell their products, okay, they needed places, new workers, new resources. These are the same issues that we see today, okay? So when we looked at the Belt and the Road with China, that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to reestablish the Silk Road because as a developing nation with new industry, they're trying to get new raw materials, new workforces, and new markets, okay? So all of these things ultimately lead into the world that we are today, and Mr. Loyd enjoying his cup of Colombian coffee while playing a game of chess with an individual from Iran. Okay, so ultimately, over the course of the last 1,500 years, human desires for luxuries drove humans to become increasingly interconnected. The Silk Road established the first intercontinental trading system, which Europeans linked through the Crusades at the turn of the first millennia. This trading system was further propagated by the Mongolian Empire, which provided protection for travelers along the Silk Road. Europeans who had grown tired of paying Arab traders began to search for their own route to find Asian goods, setting off the age of exploration. This in turn created excess wealth in European countries, leading to the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution then made it necessary for European countries to find new raw goods and markets for their finished goods, which began the age of imperialism, further connecting the world. Okay, so if you'll notice in my paragraph, I start off by answering the question. Okay, so I went with a continuity. Okay, I chose to go with the continuity. Could I have made a change? Very easily. Okay, so it's really either one that you want to pick. I then essentially made one sentence per slide, okay, explaining how this is true. And that's the key part here, folks, because you are using every single one of these events to say how ultimately this one statement at the very beginning, your thesis, is true. Okay, so that is what we're looking for in this project. Okay, today, in my class at least, I'm going to ask that you submit ideas for what you would like to do this project on. All right, and this is going to be due, okay, for my class next Tuesday. I think for, depending on what hour you have Mr. Bannock, next Monday or Tuesday. And then our final project is going to be watching and viewing classmates' versions of this presentation. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. I miss you guys. Have a great day.